So we're going to kick off with Northern California. I think we are all good to go now. I think I've got everyone. Sounds like it's warm everywhere, even in Ireland. So awesome. Love that, Helen. So kicking off, we're going to do a bit of a road trip around Northern California. To Northern California destinations I'm hitting today. So we're going to start in the Tri-Valley. You probably want to know where the Tri-Valley is. I'm going to kind of explain that a bit to you. From the Tri-Valley, we're going to go up to Sacramento. From Sacramento, we're going to go right to Northern California and into Shasta Cascade. Then we're going to head back south again and finish with wine country with Napa and Sonoma. So again, a bit to cover, but hopefully we get there. Again, like I said, if you've got any questions, fire them at me. I've got the chat box up, so I'm going to try and get to them as much and as quickly as possible with all of this. But I think we're looking pretty good. So first up, I'm going to start in Tri-Valley. For those that have never heard of the Tri-Valley, Tri-Valley is about 30 miles east of San Francisco. So we're kind of San Francisco being the main gateway, and it's about a 35 to 45 minute drive from San Francisco. So nice and easy place to get to. Kind of on the other side of the mountain ridge to Oakland. So those that might be familiar with the Bay Area, we call Tri-Valley East Bay. What I'm going to do is actually I'm going to play a video. Let's jump straight into a video, and hopefully I've got sound on this video. Yeah, we are good. So let's watch a video on Tri-Valley. So Tri-Valley, the first thing I guess that stands out to you is wine. So it is a wine region. It's kind of a really underrated wine region, but it's a big outdoor region and all about food as well. One thing that Tri-Valley is really popular for is food trails. So they have an ice cream trail, they have a beer trail, they have a wine trail. So they have a bunch of different trails, but it's close proximity to San Francisco makes it an alternative if you are struggling sometimes with some of those really high San Francisco prices. San Francisco notorious, especially during the week with its conference center, to get affordable lodging. So being so close to San Francisco, 35 miles, you can jump on the train as well. So the BART gets you out to the Tri-Valley, but you can jump on or you can drive into San Francisco, and it's going to be a lot more of an affordable option for those clients that maybe can't stretch that. Even Oakland, we're seeing getting a little bit more pricier on the other side of the bay as people kind of migrate across. So it is a good option for that. And as you can see, you kind of got the nice rolling hills as well. But yeah, it's super easy to get to. You literally come out of SFO, head over the San Mateo Bridge, and then you basically cut through the canyon and you're there. So the Tri-Valley is made up of three different, a bunch of different regions. So the regions that we've got, you've got Pleasanton and you've got Livermore. I've got this little map here. You've got Danville, and we've even got Dublin as well. So we have a Dublin for those, for our Irish friends. We have a Dublin in California too, and it makes up a part of the Tri-Valley. The big two regions are going to be Pleasanton and Livermore, and that's where you'll find the majority of the wine. The other thing to point out, you've got Mount Diablo. So for those that are keen hikers or even cyclists, Mount Diablo is quite a famous cycling climb to climb up to, but it's also good for hiking as well. And what it does is it gives you some absolutely incredible views all over the Bay Area. You can see all the way down. You can see all the bridges. So you can see San Mateo Bridge, you can see the Bay Bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge. So a lot of those kind of key bridges throughout that Bay Area. You can see obviously San Francisco, providing the weather's clear. And yeah, so it just gives you some spectacular views, and it's definitely worth going up there. If you don't feel adventurous like hiking or biking up there, you can drive up there as well, which is quite nice. Pleasanton and Livermore are kind of the key areas. Again, it's big for wine, so they've got some really nice wine trails around there, and you can go and kind of journey to the different wineries. What's quite nice as well is their wineries are really laid back, so they're really easy. Usually when you're speaking to the people at the winery, you're chatting to the winemakers and the owners, so it's quite nice. There's also some really cool craft breweries that have just popped up, and craft cocktail or spirits, yeah. Trying to think, distillers, that's the word I was looking for, sorry. But there's some of them that are kind of popping up in this area too. I said earlier, they have an ice cream trail, so they have a bunch of different ice creams that you can go and walk along to, which is quite fun. It's also home to the San Francisco Outlet Mall. So San Francisco Premium Outlets is probably the biggest, it's one of the biggest premium outlets that we have in California, has all your big brands there. So people that are wanting the outlet shopping that are in San Francisco, well, it's actually in the Tri-Valley in Pleasanton. So, sorry, in Livermore. So nice and easy for you to get to, and again, great kind of option. Just in terms of where to stay for those that are looking at this as maybe an alternative to add, we've got brand new the AC Hotel. So the AC Hotel is hotel in the middle of my screen, and that's relatively new. You've got the Aloft. I actually stayed at the Aloft in Dublin Pleasanton. Quite a nice property with a really cool bar. It's got some good pool tape. It's got like a games room kind of down in the lobby area as well. Hawthorne Suites by Wyndham as well in Livermore. And then for something that's a little bit more maybe different, the Purple Orchard Wine Country Resort, being a little bit more in wine country and out of the city per se. They are kind of small towns or bigger cities, or kind of small cities or big towns as a region. From Tri-Valley, we're going to head kind of north, and so once we kind of come from San Francisco, come through Tri-Valley, you then kind of continue heading up on the freeway, and you're going to head up to Sacramento. There's kind of two ways that you can get to Sacramento. So you can cut through through Tri-Valley, or you can go up around past Oakland, and that will kind of go past Napa and Vacaville on Highway 80. The route through Pleasanton's a little bit nicer, and it generally has a little bit less traffic. It is a little bit longer though, but they usually tend to work out mileage-wise, but it tends to usually work out about the same, because 80 usually gets quite a bit of traffic, especially when you're coming through the Oakland area, and then as you're kind of coming up through towards where Napa is, it can get a little congested there. And then when you get to Davis, which is right before Sacramento, it's a big university town in Yolo County, and that can get a little tricky there. That's coming through Livermore, while you'll look at it on the map, you're like, it's actually a little bit further. It usually works out a similar sort of time, and quite pretty scenery as well, quite nice, lots of farming and lots of rural scenery once you get past the Tri-Valley area. So Sacramento is the state capital. It's a really fun place. I think it gets overlooked a lot of people when they're heading up to Tahoe or Yosemite. They'll quite often miss Sacramento, but Sacramento it's a cool city. I think it's sometimes a bit misunderstood. So Sacramento, about 2 hours from San Francisco, nice and easy. I have a video, but feel free to come back to the platform that you've signed up through after. You can kind of check them out. I know we have a limited time, so that's all good. But Sacramento is what we call the farm to fork capital of California and America. So it's definitely where a lot of the produce and farming and food gets grown and sourced from. So most of our restaurants, especially the Michelin star restaurants in Napa and Sonoma and San Francisco, a lot of them will take all of their food and their growers they get from Sacramento. Obviously, Sacramento is the capital. It became the capital. San Francisco originally was going to be the capital, but they found gold just outside of Sacramento, and so that's why they used it. And then it's kind of linked up with the river as well, which the Delta, the Sacramento River, kind of makes its way up. So Sacramento is a hive of things to do. I think, again, a bit like Chi Valley, Sacramento is really key for its food and drink scene. Obviously, being farm to fork, it's got so many good restaurants and it's got so many cool bars. It has an old town, so Sacramento Old Town. If we jump into exploring Sacramento, Sacramento Old Town is very Wild West. I think I've got a picture of it here. This is Sacramento Old Town, so it's kind of got those wooden boardwalks. It's got the games. You can have your old worldy picture there as well. You've got so like a really nice place to kind of go and check out, and it kind of pays homage to that old style kind of US and gold rush era. There's lots of fun things to do there. Up kind of when you go up into Midtown's where you're going to find all your cool bars and restaurants, and there's so many that you can go and explore and go and see. I've definitely got a few favorites there. The Stackyard Brewery is one of my favorites, local brewery, and they have a really cool outside area. They show live sports, which is always fun to do when you're out in California or in the US watching live sport. They show it out in their massive garden. They have garden games. It's just a great place to go and hang out with locals. It is definitely a local vibe, the Stackyard Brewing Company as well, because you are literally in the back streets of Midtown. So it does give that kind of authentic experience. And I guess one of my hidden gems, as I would like to call. There's so many good eating places though, and every time I'm in Sacramento, I'm always discovering something new. But some other things to do kind of in and around the region is you've got the Sutter Fort, and that's an old kind of fort. I don't have a picture of it, but an old fort kind of just north of Midtown, kind of in the upper town area. You have the river. Whitewater rafting is quite popular to do in Sacramento as well. And it just makes a good gateway. Sacramento is definitely a 1 or 2 night stop on your way up to Tahoe, or out to Yosemite, or out into the Gold Rush area, or if you're heading up north, where we're about to venture up in towards Shasta and Northern California. Sacramento is a great place to stop. Excuse me, being the state capital, we also have the Capitol building, mirrored very much similar to the building you'd see in Washington, DC. The state Capitol building is really cool. They do tours around that, and I highly recommend doing a tour around that. It's where all the governors are based, have the pictures on the wall of all the previous governors. So yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger has a massive oil painting on the wall. It's quite weird and interesting to see him on there. But what I like is just there's so many unique things within the Capitol building, and that's why I highly recommend to go and check it out. The architect, this is kind of one of my favorite stories, and they kind of go through it on the tours. The architect really hated politics, so throughout the building there's little jibs and jibes at politics etched into the architecture of the building. Things like faces in the moldings that are pulling faces and looking at where people would be sitting during during times when they're kind of discussing or hashing out some of those legislations. So there's a lot of fun little quips around the building, and it's definitely worth exploring and checking out. But yeah, that's kind of Sacramento in a nutshell. Again, it's got a really good airport and a well-connected airport too. So if you've got people that don't want to come into San Francisco and don't want to do the drive up is pretty easy. It's about a 2-hour drive, again, depending on what that Bay Area traffic can be like. But you can fly into Sacramento as well. It's a nice place to fly into. from Sacramento, we're going to take the drive north, and the drive north up to the Shasta region is absolutely stunning. And so Shasta is about a 2 to 2.5 hour drive from Sacramento up. If you're coming from San Francisco, I would tend to say stay in Sacramento before heading north, because doing it in one day, it's quite a hefty day. You're probably looking 6 or 7 hours worth of driving. Between Sacramento and Shasta is pretty much freeway. It's definitely rural, so you'll see a lot of kind of farming along the way. So the scenery is quite interesting, but it's a nice, easy kind of blast up on the Highway 5, or you could go for something a little different and do take 99. I was actually up there this time last year, actually. Weird to think about that. And we went up on the 5 and came down on the 99 to come back. And it was just mainly just to get an experience of what both the highways are like. 99 is going to be a little slower because you come through the towns. You have to slow down through the towns. The 5 it's a motorway. You're just kind of blasting straight up there. But kind of the key town in the Shasta Cascade region is Redding, and Redding is the town where most people tend to stay. But Shasta is all about what you can do kind of around the area. So if I just jump on this little map here, just to give you a bit of an idea, I'm just gonna let me zoom out. Yeah, there we go. So if I just kind of move my way down here, you can see it's quite a way up. You've got Sacramento in the middle of my map, San Francisco out on the coast. So you're going to take that kind of blast on highway number 5 straight up, and then you can see highway 99, which comes through Chico down. But Shasta, so Redding is here. So yeah, like I said, about 2.5 hours. It looks a long way on the map, but you are kind of motoring along the motorway, so you do get up there pretty quick. Anderson and Redding is kind of the two main towns. Redding being the main kind of town, and it's kind of the last big town before you move out of California and into Oregon. But Redding, again, beautiful. They have a sundial bridge. So they have a bridge that is actually a sundial. Let's see if I've got a picture of it. The sundial bridge is, it's just a really cool marvel. All my things are out of order. That's fine. I don't have a picture of the sundial bridge, but that's totally fine. But it's in Redding, and then you've got a little kind of conservation aquarium next to it, where it's all about learning about animals and how they kind of survive in the wild, and animals kind of native to that area. But yeah, about an hour kind of as you kind of head inland, you're going to come to one of California's national parks, and that's Lassen. And Lassen's really famous for its bubbling tar pits. So this picture on my screen here is kind of a picture of the boardwalk that walks you through the bubbling tar pits. And you can do nice little loop, and there's no accommodation out here. You would tend to stay in Redding. It's about 45 minutes to an hour kind of drive out to Lassen. Nice easy drive. But yeah, coming to the park, the park is not open all year round. It closes. It does get quite a lot of snow because it gets up to elevation, and it's got some passes that kind of cut you through the park. But the biggest draw card for Lassen is you come to see these these thermal tar pits, and they're really cool to see up close. They definitely smell of sulfur too. But the landscape is just absolutely beautiful as you kind of come, and it's all about hiking and biking in the kind of national park and in that area. And it's a really cool national park to get off the beaten track a little bit. I mean, everyone goes to Yosemite, maybe Sequoia, Joshua Tree at a push, but Lassen is definitely one of those kind of unknown regions. And what's really nice is it's not super busy. It's definitely going to be, it's not full of tourists, so you really kind of can connect with the beauty of it. On the other side, you have the Shasta Cavern. So Shasta has a Lake Shasta, and they have a labyrinth of caves that were formed in and around them. really cool to go and explore and kind of and work your way through. And definitely highly recommend that. Manzanita Lake in Lassen is a good one to go and swim. As you can see, they're paddleboarding here as well. But again, stuff to do on the lake. But Lake Shasta is kind of the big draw card up in this region, and it's what we call the houseboat capital of the world. There's so many houseboats up there, and it is so much fun. We took a family trip up there 2 years ago, and they all stayed the night on the houseboat. So we had them moored up out, had a barbecue on the deck, and everyone kind of relaxed, jumping off the houseboat, swimming. It was a little cold at that time, but I mean, yeah, it's definitely such a cool experience to do that. And you can rent them. I'm trying to work at the moment with some companies up there that we can get net rates with these as well, so that they can be pre-bookable for your clients. But it'll give clients really fun and unique experience, and something completely different to what they might usually do as well. You can park the car up, there's a marina, and then you hop on the houseboat and kind of head in. Again, the lake, you can water ski on the lake and jet ski and kind of motorboat, etc. as well. But again, we're kind of really off the beaten track, so it's really fun. And then the colors, I mean, that is, people always ask when the best time to go is, and definitely the fall time when the colors start to change. You can see from this picture here, but just absolutely stunning the way that the colors kind of change in that area. The weather can be quite transient. It can get quite changing, especially around October time. I was there in October about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was beautiful, like kind of sunny, like really nice and warm. In the afternoon, we were kind of walking around in Lassen, and all of a sudden the storm came in, and we had to make our way out of Lassen extremely quickly before the snow closed the path. So the weather can change, but it is such a beautiful time to go, and I highly recommend it, because you get some absolutely beautiful days. Also in the region, again, it's just off the beaten track outdoors, and that's what I love about it. It's something just a little bit different, and it's definitely not necessarily a first-time California visitor. Shasta Cascade area, it's definitely more of a second or maybe a third time looking for something different. But here's a picture of Bernie Falls right in front of me, and this has got a nice little hike around it as well. Really simple, but Bernie's a beautiful waterfall. Again, it's about 20 minutes from Redding town, so Redding makes a really good base. Back in 2017, I'm going to say, yeah, it's 2017, they opened a Sheraton. I think I've got some probably accommodation. No, they opened a Sheraton there, and so that's kind of a nice newer property, and it's kind of one of the nicer properties. Mount Shasta, and that's kind of where I'm going to come onto next. Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta is kind of a huge, again, it's a dormant volcano. Obviously, we've got the bubbling tar pits in Lassen. Mount Shasta is an actual town. It's on the 5 you will drive through, and it's kind of just north of Lake Shasta, so north of Redding. About 45 minutes to an hour drive, and then up at Mount Shasta. In winter, it's a ski resort, so we have a lot of ski resorts in California. It is a ski resort in the winter, and in summer it flips, and again, hiking and biking is kind of the big thing there. But what's kind of the big draw card, and people come all over to go to Mount Shasta. It's apparently has a really big energy and quite a spiritual place for people, and so that's why people get attracted and drawn to it. The town of Mount Shasta is very much represented by that as well. You'll find the high street has more crystal and dream catcher shops than pretty much anything else, but really cool. And then there's a golf course there that has some really nice lodging options there. So the Mount Shasta golf course is a great place for people that if they want to stay. You tend to stay in cabins out kind of on the course. Has a nice restaurant on site as well. Again, quite remote, and it's quite nice because you're just in nature and you're kind of away from everything. So it's nice places to relax and kind of unwind. That's kind of Shasta in a nutshell. Again, if anyone's got questions, feel free to fire them away at me. So kind of Shasta's like the last touching spot before we head into Oregon, and also works well if you're doing kind of that northern road trip or coming down from, say, Seattle or Portland. Redding makes a really nice stop as well, especially if you're coming from Portland. You could do Portland through to Crater Lake down to Redding. It's going to be a big day, but would be a nice kind of fun day, and then a couple of days in the Shasta region, and then you head back down south to the more mainstream. So this is heading kind of making our way back down towards San Francisco. So San Francisco, so we're going to come to Napa Valley, and most people have heard of Napa Valley, know about Napa Valley. Napa Valley is famous for wine, and it is one of our premier wine regions, one of the premier wine regions of the world. I love Napa Valley. It's just beautiful. Napa Valley is famous for their red wines. They're big, bold, punchy red wines. They do some really good red wines, and it's definitely more of an upscale destination, but it's still an affordable destination too. And you've got plenty of options when you're in Napa. I've been talking a bit, so I'm going to pop and show you a video. Let's have a bit of a look at Napa. So Napa, again, it's about 50 miles from San Francisco. So we've come from Northern California all the way back down, real Northern California, all the way back down to kind of the Bay Area and San Francisco area. So Napa fit about 50 miles from San Francisco. So nice and easy. And again, like I said, it's full of wine. It's definitely where you find more of your premium wines, and it's definitely more of a premium destination as well. That reflects by the fact that it's got more Michelin stars than any other Michelin star restaurants than any other region in the world, even France. So they love their food and they love their wine and they love to pair it together. The reason why Napa is famous for its kind of bold reds as well, where it sits in the valley. So we'll talk about Sonoma next, but Sonoma kind of sits out on the coast. And then as you kind of work its way over the valleys, Napa sits in kind of one of the valleys off the coast. So it tends to be more of a warmer climate there. So tend to be more optimal for growing your cab savs, your merlots, etc. And so your big kind of bold, heavy red wines. One thing that kind of put, and the reason why Napa is so famous is you may have heard of the blind tasting in Paris, where they pitched the French wine versus the US wines. There's a great film if anyone is just wanting something fun and light to watch, called Bottle Shock. So Bottle Shock is a film all about the tasting and yeah, quite a fun afternoon or evening watch for you to get on. So do check that out. And it's all around yeah, putting Napa Valley on the map and why California wines are now some of the kind of most popular wines in the world. Again, it's definitely more of a luxury destination. There's tons of luxury accommodation and new luxury hotels opening all the time. We have a Four Seasons that's just opening, and that Four Seasons is going to be quite unique actually, because on site you're going to be able to make and blend your own wine. So just one of the experiences that's coming with it. So anyone selling more luxury properties, the Four Seasons Napa is going to be great. But we've got the Auberge de Soleil, again, Calistoga. There's so many nice high-end properties there. So Napa sits in the valley, and it's kind of made up of towns throughout the valley. If we drop to the next slide, yeah. So it sits up and down the valley, but obviously talked a lot about wine. But and again, one of the really cool experiences to do is jump in a hot air balloon and take a morning or a sunset, a sunrise tour over the wineries. It's one of the most peaceful and beautiful things you'll ever do. And I definitely remember the first time I did. I wasn't a big fan of being in a hot air balloon, but it was pretty surreal an experience. Just so quiet up above everything, and just kind of bobbing up and down over the vineyards there. But as I said, kind of Napa works its way up and down the valley with different little towns as you go in, and plenty of hotel options. One of the best things to do, I think, for Napa is the wine train. For anyone that's experienced the wine train, that is a really fun day out, or kind of activity to do. So it departs from the town of Napa, kind of works its way up, and you do what you think, sit on a train and drink wine as you kind of go up through the vineyards. Just some of the properties that we've got there. So River Terrace Inn, they actually own, that's Noble Hotels, they own the wine train as well. They're actually in the process of going to build another hotel. So the River Terrace Inn is quite close to the station. At the top end of the wine train, they're looking at, or they're building a new hotel up there that's going to kind of help complement it. Go up there, stay a night, make your way down. But I kind of talked briefly about the Four Seasons being a really new property there, the Calistoga Ranch, but you've got Carneros, you've got Meadowood. I mean, again, just some really nice high-end luxury properties, and that's very much what Napa is about. One thing I will say is, and it's day trippable from San Francisco. There's a few companies that do day trips from San Francisco. So if you've got clients that aren't staying there, but they do want to go and check that out, maybe they're staying in San Francisco, maybe they don't want to drive. I mean, you are wine tasting, so I probably wouldn't recommend it, but feel free. But there are companies that operate out of San Francisco that can take guests out and take them on a little afternoon to visit some of the wineries, some of the bigger ones and some of the smaller boutique ones too. So it's definitely a fun little trip to take. And then finally, kind of to wrap up our Northern California, loop, Sonoma County. Sonoma is, again, another really popular wine region, but it's different to Napa. And a question I quite often get, what do you prefer, Napa or Sonoma? And actually, I love them both, and I think they're just both very different. And so Sonoma tends to be, great for families. So if you've got family clients that wanting to go to that region, tends to be really nice for families. But Sonoma sits out on the coast, just north of San Francisco. So in terms of getting there, yeah, it's quite actually nice because it's a good drive over the Golden Gate Bridge. But you kind of go from San Francisco up over the Golden Gate Bridge, 30 miles, and you're in Sonoma County. Sonoma has the town, Sonoma, the town, but Sonoma is kind of what we refer to as the county. The little town of Sonoma is absolutely stunning. That's where the Fairmont is. For anyone that sells the Fairmont, that's kind of just outside the town of Sonoma. But the town of Sonoma has a really cool little square. They do, I think, on a Thursday evening, they do a farmers market there. You can go and the local produce comes out, which you can kind of buy, and a lot of the wineries set up little kind of tasting stands out there in the square. It's just something really fun to do. But what's quite nice is, and I love this slide here because it just kind of encapsulates Sonoma so well, and why it's so different to Napa as well. Is you've got the vineyards, so you do have all, and Santa Rosa is kind of the big key town in Sonoma County. But what's unique is you have the coast as well. So you have what I refer to quite often as the undiscovered highway, or the gateway to undiscovered Highway 1. Most people think Highway 1 is San Francisco to LA, but Highway 1 actually goes all the way up to the US-Canada border, all the way up to Oregon and Washington State. But I always say that undiscovered bit kind of starts from just north of San Francisco as you kind of head over the Golden Gate Bridge and you go into that Bodega Bay, and Bodega Bay, great for oysters. You've got Tamales Bay, you've got the Timber Cove, and Timber Cove has some amazing lodging there that's oceanfront. And then you've got the redwoods and the rivers, so you can kind of go inland, and you've got the big trees and and so I think that's what makes Sonoma kind of different and stand out. Most people think about it as another winery town, but not. But yeah, like I said, kind of Santa Rosa is kind of the key place that people tend to stay and use that as a base, unless you're out on the coast, or if you're out if you're in the kind of the main area there. You've got Petaluma. There's a small little outlet mall there, but Petaluma's home to one of the kind of more mainstream brewing companies, Lagunitas, which you can find pretty much in most of our shopping centers these days, in our shops these days here. So Lagunitas do a great IPA and a nice beer to grab. I know Tesco stock it, which is always fun. But they're kind of big for that. And then you've got obviously Sonoma, and then all the way up through the regions. So many wineries to go to. What I tend to find as well, kind of if we're talking the difference between wine. So Sonoma's being coastal, so it gets a little bit more of a cooler climate. So it's really popular for a Chardonnay. It gets really good Chardonnays and good Pinot Noirs, where Napa tends to have those more bigger, heavier reds. We always talk about Sonoma's little airport. They do have a little airport, but it's really well connected. Unfortunately, Brand USA had to cancel their mega fan this year, but we were flying a group into the little airport, and they were going to spend a couple of nights in Sonoma County from LA, and that was a cool little experience to showcase with their kind of flight in there for if you're coming up from Southern California. But unfortunately, that's couldn't happen. But yeah, just some of the things to do. So redwood trees, obviously wine tasting is a big one, but I think there's so much more in Sonoma that's not just about the wine, although the wine is such a massive part. But obviously the coast and the coastline is just so rugged and so spectacular, and I call it undiscovered because people just, for some reason, just mentally, I think, just go up. I'm flying into San Francisco, I'm flying out of Los Angeles, and I'm going down the coast, and that's what I'm going to see. And the Big Sur coast is amazing, but we get some beautiful kind of untouched, rugged coastline up north. And as you can see, kind of by these images that I've got on my screen, you've got the redwoods, the big trees. There's a really fun zip line company that will take you through the redwood trees zip lining. It is fun, and yes, it is very scary. You are at the top of the trees, literally at the top of the trees, on small little platforms, but it is a lot of fun, and you get some spectacular views around there. But it's a kind of a typical Sonoma County road as well, just lots of wood, like kind of wood trees, and lots of vineyards as well. As you go, again, hot air ballooning is such a popular thing to do. Generally in the morning, hot air ballooning tends to be a morning activity to catch the sunrise. And you've got play in the water with the lakes as well. Sonoma hosts a bunch of accommodation, and it's got a really good spectrum. We've got everything from Timber Cove out on the ocean to my favorite hotel, the Farmhouse Inn, which is kind of boutique and beautiful. And then you've got, Kenwood, we've got, those more boutiquey, but then you've got your DoubleTrees, your Hyatts, your Hiltons, even the Flamingo, something that's a little bit more maybe priced a little bit friendlier. Hyatt Regency, a big one. Fairmont, also a great property and fantastic. And again, a ton of Michelin star restaurants in the area. We just launched a Michelin guide for California this time last year, actually, when we kind of launched it. It's amazing what's happened in a year, isn't it? But that's kind of Sonoma in a nutshell. I'm going to talk a little bit more in my hidden gems on the Sonoma coast and kind of unlocking places like Bodega Bay and why you should go there. So that's kind of a little teaser for that one in a couple of weeks' time. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to just drop them in or shout at me, whatever. But just to kind of take you kind of full circle. So obviously we have San Francisco as our kind of key gateway, or San Jose. British Airways flies into San Jose directly daily as well. Again, makes a great alternative to San Francisco customs. If anyone's flying through San Francisco going through San Jose, they'll know how quick the customs is. You're basically the only flight that it meets, so they clear the plane and then that's it. You don't have to wait for all the others coming in. But quite often you miss a lot of the traffic too, especially our flights tend to arrive kind of mid to late afternoon, early evening, so into San Francisco, so it does get a little busy with people going home. But as you can kind of see on our map here, we kind of feels like ages ago we started in Tri-Valley, worked our way up to Sacramento, all the way up here to Northern California. And as you can see, that's kind of the last major town. There's still quite a ways to go before you hit that Oregon border. And then we kind of made our way down. What's quite nice as well, if you're doing the loop, is you could do Sacramento up to Redding and then basically cut straight inland towards Eureka and then come back down the coast. And that's a really fun little itinerary to do. The northern coast is just spectacular. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about that in Hidden Gems as well. But again, it's kind of that undiscovered undiscovered Highway 1. Beautiful. Again, talking about Netflix shows, there's a Netflix shows called Wild River, I believe, and that's set up and around that kind of area there. So it's kind of an interesting area up there. But if no one has any questions, huge thank you for everyone for joining. Hope these are informative, and I hope you're learning something. And hope they're a bit of fun as well. Trying to put my kind of personal touch on it, and kind of give some of my insights. But yeah, if anyone's got any chats, please do let me know. And like I said, in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be doing my hidden California. I think I'm calling it Hidden Gems. And we're going to talk kind of everything all over the state. We're going to go. We're going to talk Palm Springs area. We're going to talk Tahoe. We're going to talk Mammoth. We're going to talk kind of everything. So trying make that fun, informative, and kind of help you think. But yeah, it's brilliant. I hope everyone's enjoying that. And then road trips as well. My favorite thing is we'll talk some classic Highway 1. I haven't really talked Highway 1 on this. I feel like everyone knows Highway 1. We'll dabble into it on road trips, but yeah, we'll have a bit of fun with that in a couple of weeks' time. I thought I'd give you all a break from me. But if anyone needs me, feel free to drop me a line. You can get my email. Which is just bcroft@blackdiamond.co.uk, or you can email brendan.croft@visitcalifornia.co.uk. Either works. But yeah, if you've got anything, any questions or anything you need, feel free to reach out. Like I said, all the webinars that we're doing and all of these are in our trainings in our Mogul platform here. So you can log back into these Mogul platforms and they're all available for you to check out and watch all the videos that we've uploaded and go through all the pictures as well. But perfect, yeah, thanks for joining us. Hope everyone enjoys their sunny Wednesday, kind of midway through the week. At least the sun's out, and hope everyone has a great bank holiday coming weekend too. But yeah, like I said, any questions, feel free to hit me up. But thanks everyone, and we'll catch you soon. Brilliant, take care guys.